Let's start with the fact that I'm 49 years old, and for 49 years, I've lived without fingers. I was born that way, actually. And so a big part of my life, the bulk of my life, I've been trying to figure out why God made me the way he did.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Made to Matter. I am your host, Adam Landrum, and Made to Matter is all about helping men in midlife really transition to the second half to uncover their purpose and live that fully alive. And today I'm excited to have Jason Burbage with me. And we're just going to jump into conversation. And Jason and I have already had a quick conversation about purpose and how that's played out in his life. And so I'm excited to expound upon that. And so, Jason, why don't you just give our audience just a little bit of background about you, and then we'll kick off that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do we start? Let's start with the fact that I'm 49 years old, and for 49 years, I've lived without fingers. I was born that way, actually. And so a big part of my life, the bulk of my life, I've been trying to figure out why God made me the way he did, which was a precursor for me trying to figure out what his purpose has been for me in my life and navigating through all the stuff that goes along with not being like everybody else who does have five fingers on each hand. I grew up in South Carolina, down on the coast, a little community called Beaufort, and grew up in the country, as hunting and fishing and all that kind of fun stuff, and ended up at Clemson University, high school and all that kind of thing, playing sports. Went to Clemson, got a degree in agricultural economics, started a career in real estate, focusing on rural land sales. Eventually became part of the startup called National Land Realty that became known as National Land Realty. That I had the fortunate aspect of being a part of since its inception, to the point of becoming president of the company, and now still involved as an equity partner. A few years ago, I joined a company called Home Brands, which focuses on the home repair service space as a franchisor for four brands that we own. We're very mission and purpose oriented business as well. So my life now is about teaching people how to be successful in the business space, and prioritizing culture as a part of that. Teaching people how culture and profitability really have to be balanced equally, and helping them understand what their purpose is in life as well as some of the habits from it.
Oh, great. All right. So, I mean, you started off big. You're born without fingers, and you're wrestling with God how to deal with that. When did you how old were you when you accepted that or felt like you could deal with
Yeah,
that?
you know, I'll, I'll unpack it this way. When I was young, it was really hard because it was more the mental aspect of things. Yes, I had to figure out how to do things without hands, but I was blessed in the sense that, God gave me a mind, positive mind, and the motivation to figure things out. So I was able to learn how to adapt. Also, I didn't know any other way, so I would see people using their fingers, as most of this audience does, and think how much easier it would be if I had hands. Um, but there was still definitely the drive to figure out how to do it on my own. And I was blessed with a family um, that wanted to enable me from a positive way, meaning enabling me to figure things out on my own versus being enablers in the sense of them doing everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a huge thing. But beyond that, it was still incredibly challenging because as a child, you go into a place where you're different, and it's made real clear that you're different. And so, when I was young, I didn't want to go places where I didn't know people.
Yeah.
If I did, my hands were in my pockets because both adults and children. You can see people staring, people asking questions and all that kind of stuff. So there was a period of my life where I really, really hated God for making me the way that He did, um, because I couldn't understand why. Why
Mm-hmm.
was I having to suffer in this way when everybody else had it so easy? I mean, that was the perspective that I have. But as I got older, again, being blessed with the family that I had around me, um, and I got older and really started diving into this river, experiencing accomplishment. So learning how to tie my shoes on my own, that was a pivotal moment for me. Being successful in playing sports, being successful in Western adventures that I did. I was very involved in cutting horses, being successful in learning how to really take care of myself, really write, eat, all the things that we take for granted,
Yep.
drive a vehicle. But when I finally really, I don't know if I want to say accepted that way it all came together for me, I was actually on the way to Clemson. And at the time, I was still as a freshman. And I had a little S10 pickup truck with a manual transmission. And and driving down the road on I-26, the radio was off, and I found myself in a conversation with God. And it was a real conversation. And basically, he said to me, I, I know all the things that you've experienced, and I've seen how you handle them. Um, do you want me to make you normal? And, you know, the response was instantaneous. No,
Hmm.
I want to be who you made me to be. And that was really the point of clarity where I could see it and feel it and know it. And he was basically acknowledging, that there was a specific plan for the God. And it doesn't mean life got any easier by any means. It never gets easier, but you do get better. And that's where purposeful, intentional actions that you take will do so.
Yeah. Nice. What an incredible answer. No, I want you to be exactly who you made me to be. And that, I mean, really, the name of my company, of course, is Made to Matter, and that's, I think the battle most men are facing in midlife is, they're hearing that calling, and it's, are you going to be you? Are you going to be you? And that's the opportunity that we get in the second half, and probably lots of time, lots of times throughout life that you get to answer that question, and so you can remember that very clearly. That's cool. And so so you go through Clemson, and eventually you wind up at National Land Realty. Is that right? Is that the And my understanding of that, it was like you guys were sort of I don't know if it was the first, but you sort of helped create a market for rural land transactions that was very disparate before your company was on the
Yeah,
scene.
yeah, that's right. When I got out of school, when I got out of Clemson, uh, you know, I'll take a step back. When I went to Clemson, uh, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. There so many high school kids were at that place as well. I knew what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be tied to a desk. So, and me, I associated wealth and money with careers that, for, legal, medical. I didn't really understand sales at that point in time. Um, but I just knew that I didn't want to be somewhere where I was stuck in an office all day long doing it. And medicine was not for me, just because God didn't wire me to be in the profession.
Yeah.
But He did my life, which I'm very grateful for. So I started off at Clemson in forestry because I wanted to do something that involved the outdoors because I love the outdoors. And then when I got up there, I realized that they had a program that was under the ag econ major that allowed me to be able to learn the economics, understand the economics of how farms operate, and I could have a binder essentially and do this stuff. So that's what really got my wheels turning. And I had a mentor who actually owned a small brokerage company, but he focused on selling historic plantations, which is a very niche business.
Yeah.
And when I got out of Clemson, I wanted to go that way, but there was really no company that existed that could teach people like myself how to be successful on that side of things. So he advised me actually to go to work for although the franchise was a Prudential franchise and trust, and which is where I moved to, just to learn how to sell real estate. Um, and so when we started National Land, really, one of the reasons why we did it was because there was really no model around the land business that wasn't a small little boutique type of business, which is really how they all existed. There are two things, actually. We had other businesses that my partner and I started at the same time. It actually helped fund what became National Land Realty. This was in 2007.
Okay.
Yeah. So we started real estate companies in 2007. Let's keep that in mind.
Genius. Perfect timing.
Yeah. I left Charleston after being down there for 9 years. Moved to Greenville in July 2007. And, a year later, the recession is about to hit, and we're like, holy cow, what next? My business partner came from the development side of things, had no experience in brokerage. We created a model that allowed us to really network with landowners in a way that nobody was doing before. And so we felt like there was real opportunity for disruption in the industry. It was a very much it's really very good, and it laid the foundation for us to take the business and scale it into what it is
So
today.
it sounds like you guys really innovated. Again, you had a hard time to get through the 2000. For those who don't remember, I imagine anyone listening to this podcast remember 2007, 2008 pretty well. It really it wiped out a lot of people, and it sounds like you guys navigated that time pretty well.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't easy. But I'll say this. I remember being able to think of it being, a tremendous amount of debt, and going to lunch with a John with another commercial construction company. And he was like, look, I can remember, he said, you're not going to believe me right now, but I promise you this will happen. I can remember looking back on the days where I was eating peanut butter jelly sandwiches every day, going, does this really work?
Mm-hmm.
And the same's going to happen. This can go. But this had to happen. And he was 100% correct. So, yeah, it was hard, but it was the crucible that we needed to go to.
Yeah. Do you think that crucible is necessary for everyone to go through?
I think that in some form of fashion, yes, you do need to, from a life perspective. Doesn't mean that you need to go through some kind of extreme, crazy circumstance by any means. But
Yeah.
I do think you need to experience challenges because those challenges are what mold you,
Right.
and allow you to continue to be able to grow. So it's using an example of building muscle, for example, you build muscle by breaking it down. This problem. So yes, I do believe we all have crucibles that we need to be able to endure and get through in order to continue to grow.
All right. So you started in 2007. Immediately you run into a crucible. You guys work your way through that, and then what happens next? Because you were with them for like 17 years, right?
Yeah. So early days, we're doing everything. I'm in the field selling. For me personally, it evolved from just being all sales into leading our brokerage team that we built, still being in the field selling. My partners early on kept telling me that they wanted to see me take more leadership responsibility. And that was interesting because my identity was tied to being able to be outdoors. And that was the purpose behind what I did. And the thought of navigating away from that was something that at the first I didn't think I wanted to do, but I kept getting pulled in. I just kept feeling this pull, basically. For me, I think it was God said this direction we need to go in. So it culminated in 2019 after being 100% in the field selling to 50-50 to then become president of National Land Realty. and where I went for the first time in my career to a payroll,
Hmm.
which was an
Wow.
interesting change. And that was in 2019. Fast forward to March of 2020, and it's like, holy cow, here we go again.
No, yeah.
With
Another crucible.
with COVID, it was another crucible. Let me backtrack by saying real quick, because this was pivotal for me in the early days in national ad. Really, there's a point in time where you're questioning whether or not you're going to be successful in your venture, and you naturally worry about what people are going to think about you if you're
Hmm.
not successful. Um, when we were building National Land Realty, I was single. I didn't have a family, so all I had to take care of was me. This still is stressful, and God gave me a point of clarity by saying, by educating me on the fact that what does it matter if you fail? Okay, what does it matter if you lose the material possessions? What can you do about that? And it allowed me to have that clarity of like, well, I just start over. I can start over. When 2020 rolls around, life is different. I've got a family. I've got 3 kids.
Yeah.
We've built, you've got the house and the neighborhood and, like, the lifestyle and all that stuff. But I found myself in the same place. And Ashley and I, obviously we talked about the unbound. And again, God came back through with this clarity and basically by saying what you and Ashley have control over. And together, we know that we can provide food, shelter, and clothing for our family. That may not be the key part of that is, yes, we know that we can figure out a way to provide food, shelter, and clothing for our family in extreme circumstances. You got to keep in mind, I think this fresh for everybody. We didn't know what was going to happen in
Hmm.
March. And so having that clarity of knowing, okay, it may look completely different. We may be living in a shack and riding bicycles and
Yeah.
ramen noodles every night, but we know that we can provide food, shelter, and clothing for our kids, and at some point be able to maintain momentum to fall back out of the hole that we're in. So having that clarity allows you to be content with the circumstances that you're facing, so you
Hmm.
can tend to know that. I mean, that's really what it all boils down to for me as well. Contentment with me being who I am
Hmm.
physically, um, getting out of the place of wishing I was normal and all that kind of stuff. It's contentment is not settling for. It's
It's
just
not. It's
it's
not what?
settling for anything.
Okay. Yeah.
It's recognizing that this is reality.
Hmm.
And okay, if this is reality, then what do I need to do to keep moving? As
Yeah.
opposed to, I wish it wasn't this way. Somebody make it change. And then you fall into the downward spiral.
Yeah.
So that clarity, again, that recognizing contentment of the circumstances we're in allowed us to maintain the benefit. Of
Yeah.
course, COVID ended up being crazy for the
Yeah.
land business in a good way.
Well, I think you identified two big things that I've seen, men in midlife struggling with, and really, it's I don't know if I would say it's the ultimate crucible, but it's a crucible that many men face, and those are the two issues that they're really facing is identity. Like, you said your identity, you didn't want to be behind a desk, and now you're getting pulled into the president role where you're finding yourself behind a desk. And then two was is can I provide? Like if if I lose my job to ageism, or I decide that I want to go follow my dreams and go do that business I always wanted to do, will I be able to provide? And getting comfortable, and really having the faith that yeah, yeah, I'm gonna be okay. Those are key. Those are I think those are two big things that keep men from changing in the second half. And sometimes it takes a pandemic or a or a recession to kick those opportunities, in. So, all right, so you get pulled into to to president, um, and and we'll get to it, not to have a spoiler alert, but like I know your current company that you work for is very purpose driven, very purpose oriented. How much was purpose part of National Land Realty and what you're doing?
So it really became a central point for me after getting to become the
Hmm.
president of the company, because culture is still something that we prioritize, as I've said to you before. A lot of the stuff we were figuring out as we were going on. So
Yeah.
we knew it was important to have a good positive culture. One of my partners and the current CEO of the company played in the NFL for years, was part of Nebraska's national championship teams in the 90s and the Hall of Fame. So he had Tom Osborne as his head coach. And I mean, they had an amazing culture in the program at that time. So it wasn't something that we knew it was something we knew we needed. It was just a matter of figuring out how do you implement this in the business.
Hmm.
Um, and so early on, it was let's get a consultant. Let's come up with a mission statement. Let's come up with some core values, so we can
Yeah.
have something that we can share with the team, share with people. And what we ended up doing in 2019 is really started to refine all of that, because when I started asking questions, nobody could remember, including members of our partnership team, but what actually is our mission statement. It sounded cool, but nobody could recite it. We have 15 core values. Um,
Whoa, that's a lot.
you
That's a
know,
lot to
it's a
remember.
lot, right? So we consolidated it into something that really resonated and made sense.
Hmm.
The mission, the natural end really is that we exist to make things grow. Uh, there are 5 core values now.
Yeah.
So just being more intentional on that end. And then the opportunity that I didn't really realize until I got into it was what I learned is my purpose was not associated with being outdoors. I love being outdoors. You know, if I could be outdoors 24/7, that's what I would be doing. You know, obviously outside of 100-degree heat
Yeah, right.
and
And
all that kind of
100-degree
stuff.
humidity. Yeah,
Right.
which for our listeners, that's what we're suffering through right now.
Yeah.
Especially Jason, who lives in Colombia, which is factually the hottest place on the world, on the planet. So,
Uh, yeah, sidebar, I never thought I'd ever live in Colombia. I've been here for 15 years and not leaving anytime soon. So, um, but I figured out that my purpose was uh, with the aspect of being able to teach people and inspire people to want to understand more about themselves in that way,
hmm,
and then
cool.
how everybody is a leader in some way. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be president of the United States, president of the company, or whatever. And that really is where I got my drive from. What
Hmm.
last bit, well, realizing that God prepared me to be able to work with people. The opportunity was working with the people in the company, um, and and that's what I'm still doing today in that regard. So, and what I'll continue to do until I I feel like that yeah, I lost my own.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I can tell, with your journey and how meaningful that was to you, then now to share it with others. And even like when you guys first did your mission statement and 15 values, right? Which if you have 15 values, it really means you have no values, or at least you haven't identified them properly. And I think, I think individually we do that a lot as well. And by the way, I can totally relate. I did the same thing in my business too. I think we had 13 values at one point, but we do that. It's sort of like a strategic plan, right? We do our purpose statement, our vision, and like maybe even identify our values, and then we stick it on the shelf and we never look at it again. It's not very meaningful, but like what I heard you say is like you got to figure out who you are, especially if you have faith, like who you are in God, how and why God created you, and like move forward confidently in that. And then that is now you're living. That
Yeah,
now you're cooking with gas.
it's important to think about things. You mentioned faith. So my faith is associated with the faith that I have in Jesus. Jesus Christ is my Savior. But I want to be clear. I mean, there are folks in the audience that don't share that same faith
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
from a religious standpoint. So I'd rather people look about things from a different perspective, as faith being the belief in something greater than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So if we start there, faith is believing in something greater than yourself. Starting there and understanding that um, everyone has unique gifts and a specific purpose of using them.
Yeah.
And for me, I believe that God gave me those gifts and equipped me with those gifts for the purpose of inspiring others to live life, to learn how to live life. The mentality I had was you have to dominate. That was like the bravado mindset. Sounds good too, right? My mission is to teach people how to dominate life. And, but the reality of it is that you can't dominate life because
Right.
life is going to happen. You don't have any control what happens next.
Yeah.
We've all experienced things. We all want to do what's right. We all want to help people and all that, but unfortunately, things don't go according to plan. So you being able to be content with the circumstances that present themselves to you allows you to be able to live life and then make the most of it by having clarity about who you are. So for me, a life purpose of living a virtuous legacy, role purposes, who I need to be as a husband, as a father, in the professional world, as a neighbor, whatever it may be, all feed into that life purpose for me of leaving the virtuous legacy. And so that's what drives me. That's what keeps me going. That's what helps me really try to make the right and best of every circumstance that I find myself in. And hopefully it rubs off on others as well.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. And I know that you're doing that in your new roles. So your role as president ended with National Land Really, right? And then you went on to your next venture. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, 17 years of National Land Realty. And yeah, I think we all experience this at some point in time. We feel like it's time for something next. Some of us, we don't have a choice. It just happens. Some of us, it is a choice. Okay, I've done this. In your case, all right, I sold my business. Now what's next? Whatever it ends up being, having clarity on who you are is key for figuring out what is going to happen next. So for me, figuring out what I wanted to do with myself in this next phase of life really centered back to what I believe my purpose is, what plans God has for me, how He wants to use me. And so what I learned and what I realized I was good at was being able to inspire other folks, being able to be a driver of culture, and then also I didn't do all this myself by any means whatsoever. But we figured out how to scale a business from nothing to a nationally known brand. And I wanted to be able to take what I learned from National and an organization that shared the same values that I did, that valued the same things that I value, I put it that way, that had a desire to really prioritize culture as much as profitability, and to see what we could do to really be able to change people's lives. So that's what the purpose of Home Range is to create opportunity for folks to become business owners, to create opportunity for work-life growth, and teach people how to do it in a manner where culture and profitability is prioritized equally.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you go about finding a company that valued what you valued? That sounds like not easily done.
Yeah, it's one thing Ashton said to me when we decided it was time to step away from National Anthem was we're not leaving Columbia. So, which in itself was amazing because when we got married in 2010, she actually left Charleston to move to Columbia, and that was not what she had envisioned from that aspect. So,
right, with Charleston being one of the top places people are moving. People love Charleston, so
yeah,
exactly. Tough exit for her. But so
exactly.
now she's like, we're not leaving Columbia.
We're not leaving Columbia anytime soon. Well, I know we'll find a way back to the coast the next phase of life, once we're empty nesters, and that's where the head. But yeah, so it's like you, I had to have confidence in who I am,
Mm-hmm.
because I had to be able to answer the question when I started talking to folks of being able to answer the question, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't going to go about the path of, or at least I was hoping that I wouldn't have to go down the path of applying for jobs all over the place and that sort of thing. I had the good fortune to be able to take my time with this and do it in a manner of that I was accustomed to. And that's just talking to people. So I created a list of folks here in the state, a lot of things politically, that I noticed, they didn't know what I was doing, which it was a surprise to everybody that I was stepping away from the day-to-day of national land because it was who I was professionally for so long. But then it was just a matter of, all right, what do you do? What does the president of national land do? What are you going to do? Because somebody else had to figure out who to introduce you to. And so me being able to clearly explain to folks, this is who I am, is a powerful and very important aspect of things because you want people to go instantly go, wow, you taught me this right.
Yeah.
And so the first few people that I spoke to when I got that question every time, and these are people who know me that are still saying, well, tell me what you did. Instantaneously, where they said, you need to meet so and so, you need to meet so and so. And then when you're introduced to those folks going into those meetings, not from a standpoint of, okay, I got to sell myself, and maybe they'll offer me something. Because I wasn't looking for a job either. That it's an important distinction. I was looking for an opportunity where I could come in and help the business continue to grow,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I love to. So every person that I got introduced to, it was more about, let me learn about what you're doing. And at the very least, be able to offer some insight and some wisdom or whatever that I may have that may help. And when you take that approach, you're not trying to extract something from someone, but you're there, you're just trying to live. Well, naturally things just start coming up.
Hmm.
And that's essentially what happened with me. And Evan Wilson, who's the CEO of Home Brands, that was actually the first person I met with. And after we talked for months, realized that, hey, there could be something here with us in business together. So
Cool.
ultimately, that's what I ended up doing. I also had clarity that I wanted to stay in the service industry.
Okay.
That's what I knew in real estate.
Hmm.
I enjoy, again, work that involves getting dirty, outdoors and then growing up in a familiar environment and that sort of thing. That's what we do in the home service space with the businesses that we go. So that's where it ended up. And then, being very intentional, praying for clarity as well. I also say this is something that many of you who are listening to this don't do this regularly. I wasn't doing this regularly until a few years prior to being national. And yeah, this was God, Bob, but what he did was coming. Is I committed to praying daily, and reading scripture daily. Something that had been off and on in my life over the years, together with a ton of consistency. And when I committed to praying daily and being very meticulous about it and reading scripture on a regular basis daily, when things happen, you find yourself prepared. When things happen, you find yourself prepared to be able to move forward without a lot of fear. And so that change of me stepping out into something without some kind of plan in front, leaving national land, not really knowing what I was going to do, that's prepared me to be able to move forward intentionally because I was content with the circumstances at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's amazing. Um, so you had like 5 different things in there I wanted to comment on. One, going back a little bit was, how cool it was that, profit and hold on, now I'm losing it. Profit and
Purpose, or excuse me, culture and profit being
yeah,
valued
okay,
equal.
culture and profit. And this idea that you can do business and make money. I think a lot of people when they think of purpose, they think of like, uh-oh, I'm going to Africa to go serve, the poor or whatever, and I'm gonna have to give up. And that's just it's not true that you can you're proof that you can go do what you believe, really help people, live out your purpose in a business setting. And I just think I commend you for doing that. Um and then I just like when you were in transition from president to your next thing of how valuable it was, you knowing who you were and you knowing your strengths and what was important to you and your values, um which I make up or I interpret that it let you probably have very genuine conversations with people. Like they saw
Yes,
you weren't trying to manipulate the conversation for a job. You were just showing up being you.
correct.
Yeah. That's huge. I just want the audience just to note some of these lessons that you're sharing with us. That a lot of what purpose is really just knowing your strengths, knowing who you are, knowing what you value, all those things that you've said, and living it out and being courageous enough to live it out. And so going back to your prayer, because prayer really is also, there's a lot of trust in prayer, right? So how do you think those two play together? This, you knowing who you are, yet you're praying to, something bigger than you, and
Mhm.
just you weren't trying to manipulate an outcome. It seemed like you were just trusting. So how do those two play together?
So it takes a lot of humility. uh,
Hmm.
And frame this up, it's interesting because this is who we are at Overheads. We have virtues. We all have core values. We have
Hmm.
virtues. Because virtues are defined or rooted in biblical truth, and virtues define who you are,
Hmm.
like who you are. Values are important, but people can value things differently.
Hmm.
Uh, you can value uh, grit, value courage, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're courageous or
Hmm.
that you're good. That makes sense. So um, one of our virtues is humility. Here at Burbage. Um, one of our virtues is candidness, being candid, graciously sharing a hard truth with love and expecting the same in return. So with humility and candidness, it means that I've got to be humble and candid with God. This is what he expects. So in prayer, you've got to be willing to let it loose, you know. And believe me, I did that all my life without realizing what I was doing. Going back to, when I said I hated God for the way he made me. I didn't really hate God. I thought I did. I hated the situation when I was in.
Right.
But when I was young, it's God, I hate you for making me this way. So being able to be candid and humble enough to come out and say it. Uh, in this phase of life, it humility is. I mean, here's an interesting perspective. I would sit down and have conversations with folks. I talk to them, learn about their businesses. They would ask me questions. I'd share things with them. And there's a lot of positive feedback that would come out of it. And when I would have quiet time, thoughts would come into mind. Are you for real? Like, are you really gonna serious about yourself that you think you could actually help people make the difference in that way? Um, there's a lot of self doubt that comes
Hmm.
in, and believe me, this is coming from someone who's very intentional about staying focused on positivity. But the reality is that the devil's always whispering in your ear,
Yeah.
placing seeds of doubt, and it's okay to have a little bit of that because it ensures that you're staying focused on moving in direction. If you're
Right.
questioning yourself, question the path, whatever it may be, just don't let it consume you in that way. So the conditioning of prayer from humility, being purposeful about what I was praying to God for, asking Him for, being thankful for, making clear opportunities for me to go to help others in whatever way, making clear, my purpose as a husband to be able to joyfully serve my life, to joyfully serve my kids as a parent. All of that stuff is what went into it. But if you're not honest with yourself, if you can't be honest with yourself, and you can't be honest with God or whoever it is that you're praying to, you're just basically going to go around in a circle of false proofs.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, again, I have the you said about three things that I want to go back to, but I'm also noticing the time and we're running out here. So let me do this. So, for that man who, I know what I was going to say about the devil whispering, is, I sort of I take that and encourage people. Like when I hear that, I feel like I'm on the right track.
Yes.
Like keep going. It's like when that doubt starts coming in of like, you can't do this. Who do you think you are? It's like, oh, okay, good. Thanks for reminding me that it can be done. So, all right. So to that man out there, what I want you to think about is and a lot of people who are listening have tasted success, have had success, and then all of a sudden it ends. Like, so you're, you know, 17 years, you're president of that company, and you find yourself in transition looking for the next thing. And you want to stay true to yourself. What advice would and hope and encouragement would you give that man who might be in that situation right now?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is this: is you can't do it on your own.
Hmm.
Don't try to do it on your own. A big thing for me is I got three other guys that we started meeting in 2020. We meet weekly, and we call it a shielding block. It's literally we're there for each other. Those three men and we have the strongest male relationships that I've ever had with anybody in that regard. And it's a foundation to be able to be real with folks, to be transparent with folks, to be able to share, with folks, to be able to share good things, to be able to share bad things, and that sort of thing. You have to be able to put the work in. The work is, dedication to what matters most. So if you believe in something greater than yourself, then you got to be committed to that, right? You got to
Yep.
understand what the difference between happiness and joy is.
Hmm.
If you're chasing something that's going to make you happy, then you're eventually going to be disciplined because the happiness is going to run. Happiness in our society wants us to believe, and it's true for so many of us, that happiness is only found by, money that we make, things that we buy, positions that we gain, or whatever it may be. When realizing that joy is eternal, it's found in faith in whom you serve. So, if you're willing to put the hard work in, the hard work is not this big, massive amount of things that you have to do. It's daily disciplines, prayer, reading scripture, finding others to do it with, committing to doing things that are not always trying to find the most comfortable way. Like society wants us to be comfortable. Everything you see is about comfort. Learning that discomfort is actually a good thing in small doses. And so what can you do to challenge yourself a little bit? There's all these little things that I do personally that some people may think I'm crazy for doing it, but those are the things that I do, like taking cold showers every day, doing 100 push-ups a day, and whatever, all the other things that prepare me for life so that when real problems come in, which we all face every day, I'm a little bit more prepared to deal with them, to be content with them, and to figure out a way to maintain them.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so I'll distill three takeaways. The support group is huge for these
Yes.
men. Put the work in, and what I heard you say is put the work in. If you're believing in something bigger than yourself, whether I mean even the idea of purpose but of God or whatever that is, put the necessary work in that takes. And then a healthy perspective on joy versus happiness, which I love that concept. Is there's so much out there about happiness right now, which is just My definition is just a fleeting feeling, where a joy is a state of being. Joy over happiness for sure. All right, well, Jason, thank you so much for your story and your encouragement. That was awesome, um, and also, so your company sells franchises, right? All
We
right, so
do.
if there's a guy looking, who's the just do your little pitch real quick. Who's the perfect guy who would be a perfect fit for your franchise?
Well, if you're someone who feels like there's something more, and there's someone who enjoys the idea of figuring things out, really wants to be forward moving, um, and is intrigued by the idea of owning their own business, then franchisors exist to be able to facilitate helping folks accomplish that. So in our case, folks that have the ability to come up with funding, um, we teach them the business model, and equip them to be successful in that way. I'll leave it with this. If you've got an itch or a desire to do something more that gives you more ability to create a legacy, that you want to do a path down through business ownership, be happy to talk with you, just even from an educational standpoint of what franchising is, and who it's right for. The last thing that I wanted is get into a venture where they probably shouldn't have been doing it to begin, because it's not for everybody. And then secondly, I'll say this real quick. If you heard me speak, obviously I spoke a lot about what Jesus is in my life. If you're curious about why, I'd be happy to talk to you about it too, and not from a manner of, and we'll try to get you to become a believer in that way. I'd be happy just to talk, because if you got questions and you're at a place in life where you've got like, I don't really know why I'm doing what I'm doing and what's supposed to come next, but the idea of hearing from someone about how his faith has been a particular point of all of it, I'd just be happy to share it with you.
That's great. And where can people find you?
LinkedIn, Jason Burbage, pretty easy to find there. I'm not on the socials. That was a purposeful choice that I made back in 2021. My email address, contact me, that was jburbage at homebrands.com. Yeah, brand
Dot pro.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, we'll get that in the show notes as well. So, Jason, thanks again so much for your time and sharing your story and your wisdom. And again, I'm Adam Landrum. I'm with Made to Matter. Until next time, we'll see you then.